What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Cage My IQ. As always, I'm your host, Cage. Joining with me once again is my co-host, Jim. How's it going today, Jim?
It's going good, man. How are you?
I am doing good. Just relax after a nice Labor Day weekend. I'm ready to break down this UFC 279 pay-per-view card with you. What was your first thoughts when you saw this pay-per-view announced?
Looking at the card, it's a solid pay-per-view from top to bottom. It's a little underwhelming based on the card that came before 278 and the card that's
Yeah.
going to come after it. But anytime that Nate Diaz is on a card, it's must-watch TV. And now you add Khamzat Chimaev, and you've got a banger.
Exactly, but with this card, there's a 13 fight MMA bout. It's taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the T-Mobile Arena. Let's get started with the action for you guys. We got the first fight on the prelims. We got a men's welterweight matchup between Darian Weeks versus Johann Linez. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, with this one, I have Johann Linus winning this fight. He's a good boxer. He's got good grappling and is a finisher. Weeks is durable. He's got a really good gas tank, which the longer the fight goes, the better it chances Weeks has to win. But he's giving up 4 inches in reach, which I feel is going to be the difference maker in this, given that Johann has a boxing background with some good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, plus he's able to use that counter or use that to jab to set up combinations. So I feel like that reach is going to be the difference maker, and it's going to lead to Darian Weeks losing by second round knockout to Johann Linus.
Yeah, once again, the nickname for Johann Linez is the White Lion. Darren Weeks has no nickname, but Darren Weeks has a boxing and BJJ background. He has 100% finish rate in his pro career, and he still boxes on the side. He has knockout power and likes to use overhand looping shots. He likes to use hooks and jabs and has a quick hand speed. He needs to work on avoiding clinching along the cage and has been improving grappling skills within each fight. And he has really good cardio. Then you got the White Lion, who is a striker with wild tendencies. He likes to incorporate jabs and uppercuts into his style, but also has a background in grappling. He uses distance game and has great movement. He throws calf kicks and body kicks, and he needs to improve striking distance and his cardio. Yeah. I'm going to go with Johan Linez by decision in this one. I feel like as long as he avoids the knockout from Darian Weeks, he's going to have the better skills to outpoint Weeks from a distance. He's going to throw those leg kicks at times to frustrate Weeks. And then I feel like he's going to set up his takedowns with the striking. He's very sneaky with the ground game. I feel like that's one of the things that Weeks is weak against. If you watch the last couple fights, that's what kind of did him in was the clinch game. I feel like he's going to get taken down, and Lanez is going to do a little bit of ground and pound to try and slow him down and to deter him from just standing up and being confident with his hand strike game. But I think he outpoints Weeks and gets out with his first UFC victory.
Yeah, there's a lot of fights on this card that depend on gas tanks. And this is the first one, in my opinion, that if Johann's worked on his cardio, then he has a really solid chance of just cruising to a decision
Yeah.
win. But if he hasn't addressed that issue, Weeks is going to piece him up later in the rounds. But I'm right there with you with Johann winning this fight.
He even looked really good in his last fight, but then he started to tire out a little bit, and that's like we said, that's what kind of did it in
Yep.
in his debut. Like he almost got the knockout, and then he slowed down, and then he got finished. So
Yeah.
and he's been working on that in some of the videos that he has posted with training. He's been working on improving his cardio, improving just the output that he puts out, so he doesn't make the same mistake again.
Yeah, he's going to need to because Weeks
Yeah.
is a dangerous striker.
Yep. Let's move on to the second fight on the prelims. We got a women's strawweight matchup between Elise Reed, who's going up against Melissa Supermally Martinez. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is one that I think can go either way. Every time I pick Elise Reed, she doesn't turn up. Or every time I pick against her, she wins. And I'm picking against her in this one. I have Melissa Martinez winning this one. I like the way that she uses her kicks to set up combinations and does good work against the cage. Reed struggles against the takedowns as of late, but I don't think that's going to have to be a worry in this fight. And she's going to be able to stand and stay comfortable with her striking. But I do think that Martinez is going to um, outstrike her and walk away with a decision win.
Yeah, and she's making her debut in the UFC
Yep.
after two failed attempts of fights getting booked and then canceled due to injury from her other opponent. But first, you got Elise Reed. She's a former CFFC champion, where she defended her belt 3 times. After uh, getting a win in the UFC, she's lost 3 times, I believe. She's a one very good striking. She has good BJJ and good grappling, but she's weak against the clinch and the takedown. And she showed in her last fight that when you pressure her, that's where she's at her weakest. But she's been working on that in camp, working with that, bringing people in to help her defend the takedown and the clinch. Then you got Melissa Martinez. She is a striker with a background in karate. Also studies in kickboxing, Muay Thai, and wrestling. She likes to throw a stiff jab and loop in right hand, while also mixing in leg kicks to the ankle, body, and the head. She likes to move forward with pressure often. In the clinch, she likes to use knees and elbows, and she likes to utilize the double leg takedown. She has good cardio and sharp hands, but she needs to improve takedown defense at times. This was a tough one just because, of course, even though Elise Reed has had issues in the past, she does have that UFC experience against good competition, whereas Martinez is coming in, making her debut, and it's a whole big difference in fighting on the regional scene than it is on the main roster. But I'm going to go Martinez by decision. I think she gets it done. I think she mixes up the point game and the grappling, kind of like what Sam Hughes did. I think she watched that fight and said, I'm going to go with the same blueprint there. She's got to watch out for a Reed, though, because Reed's going to be know that that's coming. So she's going to look to defend it. But at the end of the day, I just think that Martinez has the better skills and the better fight team to get out of this with a win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I know a lot of people are saying that because of her Martinez's opponent, she doesn't belong in the UFC. That's ridiculous. That's just people not knowing the regional scene, and not, you know, trusting people's fight talents. She's the favorite in this fight, so for people to be so critical of her, it's ridiculous. But you know, that's how the internet survives.
And that's a good one because I feel that that's like a good bet for this week to make, especially since a lot of people are going with her, but she's the uh, when she should be the underdog.
Yeah,
So that's a pick you should go with.
yeah.
But let's move on to the next fight. On the prelims, we got a bantamweight matchup between Chad and Halliger going up against Alatang Haley. We got the Monster going up against the Mongolian Knight. Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup? And who do you have winning?
Yeah, I have Chad Anhelger winning in this fight. Since joining the UFC, he's outstruck both of his opponents. Has been good off his back. Has shown that he can go all 3 rounds. He's been very durable. Alatang Haley has been a lower volume striker as of late, but still packs knockout power. We saw it in the last fight, first round KO. I don't see this one going the distance. It's either, knockout on either side. I have Chad and Helder winning this fight just because of the cardio. Second round KO.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this fight goes the distance. First, you got Chad, who typically is a quick starter, who likes to use forward pressure and aggression rather than rely on his technical skills. He tends to not move his head off the center line and gets hit a lot and lacks skills on the ground to defend submissions unless he is the stronger guy. And he has good volume and good cardio, but he has a suspect chin. Then you got Alatang Haley, who's a grappler with a background in wrestling, striking, and BJJ. He has knockout power. He likes to throw with intent and manages his shots well. He uses striking to set up his takedown defense. He has good ground and pound. Needs to prove his striking defense and his output. He tends to be too content with just picking and choosing his spots for shots. I'm going to go with Alton Haley by first round knockout here. I think he gets it done there. I think a big thing with Chad is the fact that he leaves his head open all the time, and he usually does that. He takes a couple shots in so he can give a couple shots out, and usually he's the more powerful opponent there. But I saw a lot of openings in his last fight against Jesse Strader where he was losing that fight, and he was going to lose that fight if the fight went the distance. But he was able to catch Strader with that one overhand shot
Yeah.
late in the fight, and he pulled out the victory there because of the knockout. I think if he leaves himself open like he did for the majority of that fight, Altang Haley's going to connect on him and he's going to knock him out. I think he needs to be smarter with his defense, and he needs to respect the power game of Altang, because even though he doesn't pour out a lot of volume, he has a lot of power, and when he shoots, it tends to always hit the target. He's pretty accurate with his striking. So with that, I'm going with Altang Haley by first round knockout.
Yeah, I feel this is a fight that's either kill or be killed. No one's walking out with their hand raised at the third round. This is someone's going to sleep.
Yeah, we need that too with the matchup like this, because these guys can bang,
Yeah,
and I agree with you. I think it's a foregone conclusion that they don't go the distance.
I agree.
Moving on to the next matchup on the prelims, we got a women's featherweight matchup between Norma Dumont going up against newcomer Danielle Wolfe. First, we got the Immortal, and then we got Wolfe. Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup, and who do you have winning?
I don't know how this matchup was even made. To be honest with you, and that's no disrespect to Danielle Wolfe.
Yeah.
She looked good in her last fight on the Contender Series, but she's 1-0. This is her UFC debut. She's 39 years old with one fight, and she's going up against, if you scroll down a little bit, I think Norma Dumont's the seventh ranked female in the featherweight division in terms of the world. Number three. I'm sorry, number three.
Yeah.
This fight, I don't know how it got made, and I looked for opponent changes and scheduling conflicts or whatever, but I'm going with Norma Dumont in this fight. She's smaller in this fight, but she's more technical. She's got a good ground game. She's got good boxing. She can knock you out or submit you. Wolfe looked good in her last fight on the Contender Series, like I said, but she was outstruck. She was outstruck by her opponent, but she showed some really good, submission attempt there. And she's really going up a level in terms of opponents. And I don't see her winning this fight. I'm going to go with Norm Dumont, second round rear naked choke.
And in her history, the Contender Series fight was our first pro fight. So
Yeah, she doesn't have any amateur. She doesn't have any amateur fights on her Tapology.
Yeah, the big thing is she has the big boxing background. She has the boxing style. She likes to throw a lot of different strikes, like the jab, stiff jab. You got the uppercut, the hook, and she has really good movement and really good hand speed. and she has good striking defense, and that's what made the transition for her. But like everybody knows in MMA, you got to have another background to back up what you do primarily, and she doesn't have that. That was kind of showcased in that win on the Contender Series, was the fact that she was getting hit with the leg kicks and she was getting clinched up. And I was shocked that they gave her the win because I felt like she lost that fight.
I agree.
And and but she was given the win because of the transition from boxing, and now she goes right from that to a top contender in Norma Dumont, who is coming off a loss. Probably why they booked her with their in the division, and there's only like 7 people in that division. Uh, and Norma comes in with the Sonda background, grappling background. She likes to, when she's standing, she likes to strike from a distance, throw the combinations of the calf kick with the overhand shot. She mixes in the hooks. She has good cardio, good pace. And one of the things I think is going to do Wolfe in is the fact that she likes to lean in and clinch up with their opponent. And I don't think that that's going to be good for Wolfe. I don't think that Wolfe is good at defending in the clinch. And Norma Dumont likes to throw the elbows and knees in the clinch, and she likes to do the leg trip there. And if the fight goes to the ground, I feel like Danielle Wolfe is done. I don't think that she wants to go to the ground at all. And that's why I got Norma Dumont winning by decision. I think she just does a lot of volume, gets the fight to the ground from the clinch, and she just dominates this matchup all 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, if this was a boxing matchup, on paper they're even because Norma's got good hands and so does Danielle.
Yeah,
But if you look at the way, like, the only other kind of comparison I can make to this, and I hate that I'm making this, is Clarissa Shields in PFL. When she transitions from boxing to MMA, they gave her somebody on her experience level, had like 1 or 2 fights, and they went right into it, right? This
yeah,
reminds me of like a CM Punk type of fight, where like, oh, we're going to give you somebody who's been killing it on the regional scene, who has a ton of fights, with Mickey Gall. It should have been like the Mike Jackson CM Punk fight. Give
yeah.
somebody who's even, because you're setting Danielle Wolfe to fail, or you're saying, Norma, like, you were exposed last fight against Mesi Chiazon and taken down 6 times. This is your strength of schedule now.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a
Yeah,
crazy fight.
it's a crazy fight, but I think it's an easy one to predict here. I'd be shocked if Norma doesn't win.
I might put some money on Danielle Wolfe just
Yeah,
because.
there are good odds. She is plus 225. So if you feel like she's gonna keep the fight standing, and then they are trading shots, that she does have a chance. I just feel like with the grappling side of things, and the
Yep,
fact that Norma Dumont can get inside the clinch and take her down, if that happens, she's losing. But if she can keep the fight standing the whole time, she has a chance.
for sure. She's got a striker's chance.
Yep. Well, let's move on to the next matchup. On the prelims, we got a big time, big boy matchup between Jake Collier going up against Chris Barnett in the heavyweight division. I feel like this is Chris Barnett's return back to the heavyweight division because he's been at light heavyweight the past couple of fights. You got the prototype going up against the Beast Boy. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
I love watching Chris Barnett fight. His energy is unmatched. His charisma is
Yeah,
fantastic. And this is a good matchup because Jake Collier is fun to watch as well. Um, as in every fight that Chris Barnett's going to be in at heavyweight and seemingly light heavyweight, he's severely undersized in the height range. Usually makes up for that in the reach because he's got a pretty long reach, but he's losing the reach battle as well. His path to victory in this fight is knockout, which has happened to Jake Collier 3 times. But Barnett's gas
yeah,
tank is one of his areas of concerns, and this is one of those fights that I kind of prefaced in the beginning. Um, this is one area of weakness for Chris Barnett is his gas tank. And Collier is a high striker with good ground game and a good gas tank. Tends to kind of get a little spotty in the third rounds. But I think that this is going to be a good fight. There's going to be some, rock'em sock'em robots in the first round, but I think Collier is going to calm down, take the fight to the ground, and get a second round sub.
Yeah, and I feel like he got robbed last fight against Orlovsky. I felt like he won that fight, but they gave the win to Orlovsky. Collier tends to like to always move forward and pressure you. He's always thrown. He has good cardio. He has knockout power, but then he has the sneaky ground game, like you
Yep.
said, where he could get you to the ground and pound you, or transition to side guard, where he's very good with the submission entries. So the point that you think that he's going to sub him is a very sneaky a pick to go with in this matchup, especially since Chris Barnett tends to get tired later in fights. But then you've got Barnett. He's making the move back up to heavyweight, so it might do him a little bit good in the cardio side, not cutting as much weight to go to light heavyweight. He's a bigger guy. He has that crazy fighting style. He throws a lot of those swinging back kicks or one handstanded kicks like he tried to last fight. He has good looping shots. He likes to move forward, and he has knockout power. But then he also likes to grapple up a little bit, and I think he's going to make for an exciting matchup here. But I'm going to go with Jake Collier. We all know that he has moved up divisions over his time in the UFC, and he's gotten a lot bigger, a lot stronger, and he's just a guy. Unless you're going to knock him out, he's just going to keep coming at you all fight and pressure you and just keep on throwing. It just never stops. And I feel like he's going to win this one. I'm going to go round 3 sub here.
Okay.
I was gonna go with decision, but I feel like with how Barnett tends to tire out, and the fact that Collier the past 2 fights has taken the fight to the ground, and I believe he did sub Chase Sherman before he beat Arlovsky. I feel like he's gonna get him with the anaconda choke.
Yeah, this is one of those fights that I feel like with Barnett's style, he
Yeah,
might slip on the mat, and that's how the fight gets taken to the ground. Like it's one of those weird things, like where you trip or you fall or
yeah.
like you slip. But yeah, you're third, I'm second, both going with sub.
Yep, let's move on to the next matchup on the card. This was actually a fight that was rescheduled a month ago due to COVID. Now it's taking place on this pay per view. We got a men's middleweight matchup between Jamie the Night Wolf Pickett going up against Denis Tuili right here. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
I'm going with Jamie Pickett, but this was a tough one. Tullian has power and is very accurate, but he struggles on the ground defending submissions. In Pickett's last 2 wins, he landed 2 takedowns and 1 by control time. And I feel he does the same thing, given that Denny is a little bit more suspect to the takedowns and
Yeah.
susceptible to it. And I think he wins by decision, but he has to be clean on his takedowns because if he gets sloppy, Tullian's going to catch him and knock him out.
This was very tough for me, this matchup. First, you got Jamie Pickett, who's a striker with a background in BJJ and kickboxing. He likes to fight from range and throw a lot of leg kicks while mixing in minimal hand striking. He's really good at the counter game, but needs to improve on being more aggressive and more putting out volume wise. He has so takedown defense, and he's on a and then he, after his 3-fight win streak, he did lose his last matchup. Then you got Denis Tuili, who is a striker with an aggressive background that likes to push forward. He throws a lot of power shots, and then he takes a shot to throw a few back. He needs to improve his striking defense and has poor takedown defense as well. His volume, chin, and cardio are good, but he is too one-dimensional with this fight game. This was very tough for me because if Denise didn't have those big holes that he has, I would have been one-sided with this one. But the fact that he is one-sided, kind of like what Jamie Pickett sort of is, it makes it 50-50 for me. You got the takedown defense of Denise, which holds him back, but then you got the volume game, and then the reluctance on Jamie's side to be more aggressive. So it makes it more like just a flip of a coin matchup where, uh, like, I was unsure who I was going to go with. I'm going to go with Denis Tuili here. And just for the fact that even though his cardio is an issue and there's been holes with his game that have been brought upon us from his last fight, he did take that fight on a week's notice, so he had not a lot of time to prepare. He's looked better than that, even though that is an issue of his, which is the takedowns. And Jimmy Pickett's just not aggressive. I feel like he doesn't attack of his opponents, and it's been a detriment to him. He's won some matchups by decision, but a guy like Tuili, you got to finish this guy. You got to get this guy out here, or he's always going to have that chance. And I think Denise knocks him out in round 2.
Okay.
I think he gets it done. I think he has the power to do so, and Pickett tends to leave himself open at times because of the style that he fights. He fights from a distance. He throws kicks, goes in there. He gets the fight clinched up along the cage, backs up, and then throws more kicks. And when he backs up, I feel like he's going to open himself up for an overhand shot that's going to knock him out.
I think that that's highly possible.
Yeah, me too. But it's definitely not one of those big time matchups. I think both guys are where they should be. They might each do a little bit better in the UFC, but they're not top 15 talent. Neither of them are. Let's move on to the next matchup on the prelims. We got a men's heavyweight matchup between Gelatin Almeida going up against Anton Turkley which is going to be taking place at catchweight 220 pounds. I don't know why it's catchweight. I don't know why they don't just say it's heavyweight, because after 205, everything is heavyweight. Matchup wise, but
right.
You got Anton, who's taking his fight on short notice for Chimaev, who just backed out a few days ago. So now he's taking the place of him to fight Almeida. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning? They got the nicknames Meldahino and the Pleasure Man.
Well, the first thing is I do not like the Pleasure Man as a nickname for a fighter in general. I think that that's another type of star's name. I don't like, the first thing that kind of stuck out to me about this is the odds. I don't like the odds on this one. I think Almeida's like a plus 800 in this one, but I get it since it's a short notice fight. It's catchweight bout. Anton's moving up in weight because he's usually a light heavyweight. But the thing that sticks out to me is Almeida has really good hands and good jiu-jitsu, but the same could be said for Anton. He's got good hands and he's got a good ground game. The thing that I'm looking at is the fact that Almeida was training for a 41-year-old declining fighter in Shamil Abdurakhimov, and he's now facing a 26-year-old younger, faster striker who's also good on the ground. He was going to dominate Shamil, in my opinion. I think he was going to just walk through Shamil, just like Pavlovich did. I'm going to go with Almeida in this one. I think it's going to be a lot tougher than he expects it to be, but I think he gets the second round KO because the ground game is going to kind of negate itself. But if this fight, if there's a fight on this card that has upset written on it, it's this one.
I definitely agree there. But first, we got Anton. He's a Swedish fighter with a background in grappling and striking in BJJ. He excels on the mat where he uses strikes to set up his many takedowns. He has a great submission game in the clinch, and he likes to always attack his opponents when he is in optimal spots. He needs to improve his hand and movement striking wise, but he has good cardio and pace, and he does have knockout power. Then you got Gelatin Almeida. He is a high-level jiu-jitsu artist and grappler. He looks to take the fight to the ground and submit his opponents. He has high submission, like a rate of winning, and he's won undefeated in the UFC. He fought at light heavyweight And in last fight, he went and beat Parker Porter in his first fight in the move up to the heavyweight division.
Yep.
I'm with you with this one. These fights tend to be kind of sketchy because you got to fight a fighter in Almeida who's prepping for a striker in Chimaev at an older age, and now he's going to be fighting a guy at a very younger age in his 20s who's not a striker. He is a grappler, but he does have knockout power, so that's something you got to watch out for. I think Anton does have that knockout power chance of winning the matchup, but when it comes to the grappling, they're both good at grappling, but I think Almeida stands out a lot more than Anton's does because of the fact that Almeida just has that endless cardio. He just comes at
Yep.
you, comes at you, comes at you, and looks to take the fight down. And he can lock in a submission from any angle, I feel like. If you watch that Parker Porter matchup, Parker Porter had a good 60 pounds on Almeida, I feel like, and he dominated the matchup still because of the grappling side of things. He was able to get inside the distance very, very early, avoid all the shots, and then he just controlled the matchup with his grappling. And I think that's what he does here. I think he looks to close the distance right away, grapple with them, clinch up with them, use his speed to his advantage, and then he takes the fight down. And I still think he gets that first round submission.
Okay. I feel like they went 220 on this one because this is like their walk around weight. Like neither
Yeah,
one of them are going to have to cut because they've,
yeah,
like you said, Almeida's kind of bounced between divisions, and Anton is naturally a lightweight, so he might just be coming in fresh off the couch or off the mats at 220.
I could see that one too. And with it, just like we said, it makes sense why it would be 220. But they could have just said 205 and it didn't matter. I mean, they should have just said heavyweight
Right.
matchup, and they could have came in at whatever weight that they were at. So
Yeah, maybe they don't want to affect the rankings or whatever. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. But I think at the end of the day, Almeida gets this one because even if
Yeah.
Anton was lightweight, like both of these guys fought at lightweight, and now it's being contested at heavyweight catchweight. So,
Yep.
but it
I'm with you.
definitely, I am gonna watch out for it because it's like I think Almeida should be like one of the big time picks in fantasy this week for your DFS lineups. But I wouldn't be shocked if Anton was able to pull it off by like a crazy knockout.
Yeah, I mean, there's two heavy favorites on this card between Almeida and Chimaev. Like they're
Yeah.
plus hundreds, not like 100 or 200s, like plus like 600.
I was so looking forward to that Almeida Shamil matchup because if he was able to dominate Shamil, that was his ticket into the top 15 there.
Yeah.
And then like I want to see how Almeida does against these knockout power heavyweights in the top 15. The guys that we're thinking of. We just saw Romanov finally get his first loss uh, in the in the UFC. And you got other guys like I want to see him go up against like a Siragan, like a Francis Ngannou, like a Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis.
Aspinall
I
would be a great matchup.
Aspinall. I would pay to see him going up against Derek Lewis because Derek Lewis has that knockout power, but then Almeida has that big time grappling BJJ expertise, and I would like to see those guys go at it. So it's like I wanted to see that happen. He's going to get the win, but I don't think he's going to shoot up like he was before now.
No,
But
I'd like to see him get one of those like smaller heavyweights that a lot of people are saying like should try and cut a little bit more to go down the light heavyweight, like a Chris Dawkins,
okay,
who also has
yeah.
good BJJ and stand up. That would be a really good matchup at heavyweight, Almeida versus Dawkins.
I agree with you on that one. But let's move on to the prelim main event matchup. We got a featherweight matchup between Hakeem dawadu going up against Julian Erosa. We got Hakeem versus Juicy J. Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup? And then who do you have winning?
I love this matchup. I'm so glad this is placed where it's at. This one's going to be an absolute war. Um, I thought Arosa was going to come in as the favorite in this one. He's riding a 3-fight win streak. He's looked
Yeah.
impressive, but Hakeem has looked really impressive as well. And I understand why the odds are the way that they are. Both are high volume strikers, but Arosa has the ground advantage, in my opinion. I don't see this one going to the ground a lot or enough for Julian to really capitalize on that. And if it happens and stays standing, I give the edge to Hakeem dawadu. He's got really good accuracy, and Arosa has been knocked out 6 times in his career, albeit I think he's got like 29 professional fights on his record. And he absorbs and Julian actually absorbs an average of 7 strikes per minute in the UFC. And that leads me to take Hakeem dawadu in a second round KO based on accuracy, volume, and the fact that Juicy J's striking accuracy is a little down at this point.
This is going to be a fun matchup. Of course, everybody knows that Hakeem lost his only matchup to Evlov, and since then and before that, he's been a guy with a striking and a grappling like mixture, and where he's had a great success doing both. And he looked very sharp in the last matchup with the striking, like you said. But then you got Jordan Rosa, who, since getting knocked out a few fights ago, has looked like a different guy. He still has that striking defense issue that he has, but he manages his distance now a lot better than he did. He goes in there, he throws a lot of volume. He moves better. He moves his head off the center line now. He takes some shots that give some shots, but he's been able to win. And it seems like his chin has done a lot better. He took a lot of shots against Peterson,
Yeah.
and he won that matchup. And he made $100,000 doing that matchup because of the weight cut issues of Peterson. And then that win against Charles Jourdain is sure Asian well for him, because Jourdain has gotten inside the top 15. He did lose this past weekend over against Nathaniel Wood, but we still seen Charles Jourdain make that run up, and Jordan Rosa was able to beat him up with the distance game and wound up finishing with the submission there. That's a part of his game that people tend to forget, is the BJJ grappling side of Rosa. He
Right.
does a very good job at that. He likes to utilize the distance game to frustrate his opponents, and then when they least expect it, he gets inside, clinches up with them, and he submits him. And I feel like that's what creates this 50-50 matchup between these two. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be a finish. I think it's going to be all about striking. And I give the edge to Rosa because he has the bigger volume in his matchups. Hakeem dawadu does good with the striking, but I don't think he can match the volume game that Rosa can put out. I think he's going to do that, but then dawadu's going to look to clinch up, and I think it might be a bad move for him to do so.
Yeah, dawadu kind of thrives on the counter, like that
Yeah.
counter right. But this is it's so many fights on this card. Is this being fought at 155, 145? Okay,
145.
I was gonna say if Arosa wins this, there's a matchup at 155 that could be a really good matchup for Arosa, and a rematch from his coming up, and that's Paddy Pimblett when they fought in Cage Warriors. That would
Yeah.
be a fun matchup to see those two go at it. But that Julian or Paddy have to come down, and or go up or down, and I think it would be Julian going up to 155 because Paddy's not cutting
Yeah.
to 145.
Yeah. Let's move on to the main card now. We're first fight on the main card. We got a light heavyweight matchup between Johnny Walker, who's going up against Ian Goudalaba. We got Walker versus the Hulk. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this one comes down to two things: Johnny Walker's chin and Ian Goudalaba's gas tank. Walker is the bigger and longer fighter, but is susceptible to being taken down, which plays into Goudalaba's hands. If Walker survives the takedown, I see him getting the decision win by racking up volume after Goudalaba gasses out, which is something that he tends to do. And given Johnny Walker's reach and the way that he can point fight, I see him outpointing it if he survives the takedowns. But if Johnny Walker gets taken down, he'll be too tired, leading to a Goudalaba knockout. I'm going to go Johnny Walker by decision based on the fact that I believe that Goudalaba has struggled against the bigger fighters, the Ryan Spans, the Magomed Ankalaevs, those type fighters. So I'm going to go with Johnny Walker in this one. He bounces back.
Yeah, Johnny Walker's a guy who has top 5 potential, but he hasn't lived up to it due to whatever it is that's going on with him. He has the crazy like high octane background in karate, kickboxing, Muay Thai. Yeah, his background with all of them, he likes to throw those crazy leg kicks, the Superman punch. Like he has that high like energy style. He has good uh, cardio. He has good hand movement. It's just that the one big thing is that he doesn't move his head off the center line, and that he's been knocked out many times because of it. Because his head's always there when his opponents are headhunting, and then they just connect on it. And he needs to be more aggressive. I feel like he hasn't been more aggressive in his matchups. And if he was able to do so, he would have more success instead of just sitting there and waiting. Like you had the matchup against Thiago Santos. If he was just a little bit more aggressive, he would have won that main event.
Right.
But then you got Ion Goudalaba. He is a guy, a striker with a wrestling background. We all know him. He has issues with his cardio. He tends to go hard in the first round. And he likes to grapple his opponents, take them down, and grind and pound them. But he has a suspect cardio, and his chin has been in question the past couple fights as well. That's what makes this matchup like interesting is the striking of Walker against the grappling of Goudalaba and what's going to happen because one of these guys has to win here. And I'm going to go with you on that. I'm going to go Johnny Walker by decision because I feel like this is the one example where his patience might come into play as a good thing in a matchup because Goudalaba is going to come in right away, exploit the takedown defense issue of Walker. He's going to take him down repeatedly in round 1. But Walker isn't going to get finished. He's not going to tap. You're going to go to round 2, and then I feel like Goudalaba is going to be tired. And then that's when Johnny Walker takes over with the point fighting, and he's going to just rack up volume there. And I could see him coming out with a 2 rounds to 1 decision victory here, as long as he avoids knockout shots. But then again, I feel like he could also sneak in a knockout in round 3.
Yeah, it's very possible. It just depends on which Johnny Walker shows up.
Yeah,
And to your point that you made, um, Johnny Walker thought he was a star before he was a star. He
yeah,
really let those, performance of the nights, the, dancing in the rings. He really let those wins get to his head, and he needed to be humbled. And he got humbled, and he had to go on this skid. He switched camps. He's now training primarily at SBG in Ireland. So
yeah.
he's switching it up. He's trying to become a more disciplined fighter, but he needs to get back on track, or he's going to be fighting in another promotion.
I agree with you. Both these guys need to get back on track
Right.
because they both have big line issues that they haven't corrected yet. And if they want to get away from the spot that they're at right now and actually move up in the division, they need to become better overall fighters and
Yeah.
make sure that they don't become more liable than they are now.
Yeah. Make or break for both of them at this point.
Yep. Let's move on to the next matchup on the main card. We got a women's matchup between Irene Aldana versus Mesi Chiazon. It's going to be contested in the bantamweight division. Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup? And then who do you have winning?
I like this matchup, but I think it's a tough one. Aldana is the higher volume striker, has good takedown defense, only been taken down twice in her UFC career, while chiazon uses her length to fight from distance. Um, we talked about this before, but chiazon was also successful landing takedowns in her last fight, landing 6 against Norma Dumont.
Yep.
Um, what stands out to me is that Aldana threw more strikes in the first round of her last fight, which only went 1 round, than chiazon threw in her entire last fight. I think it was 34 in 1 round versus 32 in a decision fight. So I'm going to go with Aldana. I think she gets in within that range, and she clips chiazon second round knockout.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what you were saying, Irene Aldana has the knockout power. She focuses a lot on her striking. She has good movement, good output, and good cardio. We The one weakness she does have is her chin. She's knocked people out, but then she's been knocked out as well. Then you got Mesi, who is a tall fighter for the division, but then she's a little lankier as well. She likes to use a lot of leg kicks and striking mixtures to utilize that length advantage that she has with her height. She likes to fight from a distance. She picks and chooses her spots, and then she's been mixing up the grappling of lately. Like you said, she Showcase did a lot against Norma Dumont. It frustrated Dumont, and she was able to throw the elbows and knees in the clinch, which were basically up to Norma's like throat at that time. So
Yeah.
it was a big advantage for her. And she has a big the background in the UFC, having a lot of wins there that you wouldn't think that she had. I'm gonna go with Irene Aldana by first round knockout, though. You made a great point there that Irene Aldana had more like strikes in the first round of her last fight than Macy had in her whole last fight combined. And I think it's just the hand speed, the movement, and the power. The power is the big thing with Aldana. She's been
Yeah.
able to knock out some uh, top five top 10 opponents in that division, and Macy has been prone to being knocked out. And I think Aldana gets it done, and I think she gets it done before the first round ends.
Yeah, and Macy's been doing a good job staying active, bouncing between
Yeah,
135 and 145. So I think she's just in a spot where she's trying to find which division is her home. And it's tough at 145 because, like you said earlier, when we were talking about the Dumont and Wolfe fight, there's only like 7 fighters in that division at
yeah,
this point. So, like, you're going to see a lot of overlaps between bantamweight and featherweight. But
yeah.
Macy is one of those fighters that continues to just keep fighting when her number is called. So, more respect, props to her.
I will say that that's a good thing for her because Irene Aldana hasn't fought in almost a year.
Right.
She was supposed to fight in September, in August September of last year against Jermaine De Ranamy,
Mhm.
and because of the issues with Jermaine De Ranamy, that fight was canceled twice, and she's kind of been waiting since then to fight. So she might come in a little bit rusty, but uh, I think that's one thing that could benefit BC. But I think she's been training still, and I don't think it should affect Aldana too much, other than
Right.
maybe like the first minute.
Yeah, get those jitters out, and then
Yeah.
you're back into it.
Let's move on to the next matchup on the card. This is one of my most anticipated matchups.
Me
We
too.
got a welterweight matchup between Kevin Holland going up against Daniel Rodriguez. We got the Trailblazer versus D Rod. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and who do you have winning?
This one was really interesting to me. One that I highlighted, circled, starred, potentially fight of the night. With this one, I feel like Daniel Rodriguez is getting underestimated in this fight and is highly underestimated and undervalued by a lot of fans. He's got really good hands. He's durable. But he's very hittable. He takes shots to give shots. While Holland, on the other hand, has improved his grappling, and is a very active striker, an accurate striker. I'm going with Kevin Holland in this one for a couple of reasons. He has a crazy reach advantage. He's been more active. Rodriguez hasn't fought in almost a year. And Kevin Holland is a little more conditioned at this point. He's kind of bounced between divisions, like we were talking about with Mesi, but it seems that, this division is the right spot for him. And I have Holland by decision. I don't see him knocking Rodriguez out. He's a really solid chin and has never been knocked out. So I have Kevin Holland by decision.
It's crazy to think that both fighters are coming in with the same weakness, and that's the takedowns
Right.
and defend the takedown. And I think when Kevin Holland first saw this fight, he was like, "Yes, I don't have to deal with the takedowns because he has the same issue as I do." So it makes things more easier on him, especially that move down. I feel like that move down from to the move down of divisions from middleweight to welterweight has been a big plus for Kevin Holland because
I
he,
agree.
he comes in with the advantage in some aspects. But Daniel Rodriguez is probably one of the best strikers in the division because he has that boxing style background, the movement. He knows how to move his head, and he lands a lot of shots. In one of his last matches, last time he fought almost 3 times in the span of 2 months, and he won all 3 of them. And
Right.
he is one of the last guys to fight Kevin Lee before Kevin Lee went and got released and then went to Habib's, of course, promotion to fight there. But then he is coming off of a big time injury that has caused him to be out for over a year. His last fight was last summer, so
Yeah.
that shows how long he's been out for. So yeah, we don't know how Daniel Rodriguez is going to look. Yeah, I think he's going to come in rusty. I think Kevin Holland has been active. It's been a good thing. He's fought like a mixture of strikers and grapplers. He's been working on the craft. He's been trying to improve his game from fight to fight, and you knows the big time differences. I'm with you. I got Kevin Holland by decision. Rodriguez has a great chin,
Yep.
and his only weakness, like we said, was the takedowns. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Kevin Holland take him down once or twice just to catch
I
him off guard.
I actually think he's going to. I
Yeah,
think that that's the game plan. Look at his last fight. He fought Tim Means and he subbed
yeah,
him. So, I think Kevin Holland's going to try to exploit that and show that he's not one dimensional.
yeah. And then I think he comes out victorious in this one, and he might be one of my plays in DFS this week because of this. When I first saw the matchup, I was like, okay, I might stay away from it because this is a tough matchup. But then the more I looked at it, I was like, okay, we don't know what D-Rod's going to show up. He might show up rusty. He might not be all there yet. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to go Holland. I think at the end of the day, both these fighters might wind up getting into that top 5 at one point. But I think with the fact that Holland has been fighting, that this is probably his 3rd or 4th fight in the past year, maybe the past 8 months, but definitely in the past year. And D-Rod hasn't fought in a year, so that's
Yeah.
why I give the edge to Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I mean, plus Kevin Holland's been fighting dudes on the street who's been like trying to rob people. He's
Yeah,
been, a Texas superhero. And, to your point about which D-Rod shows up, whichever D-Rod shows up, even on a bad night, D-Rod's a dangerous fighter, as is Kevin Holland. But Kevin Holland's a bad man. D-Rod's a bad man. I say give these guys 50K already because this is going to be fireworks.
it has the potential to be fight of the night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. This is a fight that was put together 2 weeks ago. We got a welterweight matchup between Li Ling, aka the Leech, going up against Tony El Cuco Ferguson. Ferguson is making his move up to welterweight. Jim, what are your thoughts on this co-main event? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, so you pointed out that Tony El Cucui's moving up to um, 170, and I think
Yeah,
that it's a good move for Tony, a great move for Tony, but I feel like it's a few years too late. He's absorbed so much damage at 155 that despite coming into this fight with the 5-inch reach advantage, he's going to be going up against stronger, more powerful fighters, and he just has to start with Li Jingliang. I have Li Jingliang winning this fight by second round KO. He's good on the ground. He's showcased his stand up recently. Tony again has absorbed a lot of damage. He fights unusual, so I'm curious to see which version of Tony comes in, if it is that like real unusual kind of wild style El Kukui, or if it's a more,
Yeah.
timid Tony Ferguson. But I think this is kind of like the end of the road for Tony Ferguson's UFC career. One of the most dynamic fighters to come out in the 155 division in a very long time. It's sad he never got a chance to really fight for that title, but I'm gonna go with Li Jingliang at second round knockout.
This is very interesting because Li Jiling, he did get that win over Salkov in the last matchup, but he came from behind to do so. He
Yeah,
was having trouble within that matchup, and then Salkov kind of got tired, and then Li Jiling took over with the striking, and then he wound up getting the finish. But then you got Tony Ferguson. He's a big wild card, and moving up to welterweight. Of course, I think the big thing with him moving up was just the speed of the lightweights that were fighting him, and that's why he moved up. He couldn't deal with the speed difference. He was never the quicker guy. He was just the more powerful guy. He had the heart of a lion. He could take all the damage that he needed, and then he could dish it back. And then he had the power
and jujitsu. He's got
and
great jujitsu.
yeah, jiu-jitsu and the cardio. He had all that, but the speed was just too much for him. There's a lot of speed now in that division where before it was all about power, and that division has developed over the last 4 or 5 years. And now he gets to go up against Li Jiling, who's a guy who's not going to have that speed advantage. He's going to be taller probably, but this is going to be a striking style fight where I feel like neither guy is going to look to do much more than bang. But I do think that there's that sneaky chance that Tony Ferguson might try and take the fight to the ground because he does have that background. He hasn't used it much because he's been being beat on by these quicker guys.
Yeah.
But this is a matchup where he might be the quicker guy, which it might be a good use for him to go take the fight to the ground. I'm going to go Tony Ferguson here. I'm going to go with the big time upset.
All
I
right.
do feel like Li Jiling could knock out Ferguson, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened because that would be a big percentage chance to happen. But I think Ferguson could win by a decision here because I think that he could pour out more volume. Yeah, I do feel like he's the quicker guy, and I think he's just going to let it go this matchup and see what happens.
I mean, go for broke, right?
Yeah.
Both of these guys, I know Lee's got a win on his last fight, but I don't think he impressed a lot of people as of late. That matchup kind of reminds me of when Lee fought Ponzinibbio,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to go the same way. Lee's got some sneaky ground game too. They don't call him a leech for nothing, but this is a good fight. It's we were talking about possible fight of the nights. Anytime Tony Ferguson's in a fight, it's a potential fight of the night.
It just all depends on what Ferguson shows up.
Yeah, I think
It,
this is going to be a good version of Ferguson showing up.
yep. Let's move on to the main event of the evening. The reason that we're here, we got the men's welterweight 5-round fight between Khamzat Chimaev, aka Boris, going up against Nate Diaz. Once again, this is a 5-round fight. Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup, and then who you have winning in the main event?
I love that you said that this is a 5-round fight twice. For the
Yeah.
fact that I don't think that this goes 5 rounds at all. I love this matchup. Nate Diaz is an absolute savage for going into this fight. And I love that he doesn't care about who his opponent is, and he has the confidence that he can win any fight. But Khamzat is another different type of fighter. He's accurate, puts the pressure on you. He's great on the ground. He's a multiple time world champion in wrestling. His striking is bar none some of the most accurate that we've seen. We've seen him piece up fighters like Li Jingliang, who we just talked about. Diaz, we all know, has great BJJ, great gas tank, solid striking. But what worries me in this fight is how many shots can he take from Chimaev before he's cut open and bleeding all over? Because that's been the kind of the thing for Nate Diaz of his last few fights. There's like the fight with Gamebred was stopped because of blood and a cut. And it's happened a few times in his career. I have Chimaev landing a huge shot in the second round and the doctor stepping in and stopping this fight. So I'm going Chimaev TKO second round.
Yeah, and one thing we know is Nate Diaz has the scar tissue.
Yeah.
And it's easy for him to bleed,
Yep.
and it gets in his eyes. And I feel like Nate Diaz has lost a step. He tends to take a lot of damage in fights. Chimaev likes to pressure his opponents. He likes to strike with them. He throws his overhand shots, but he uses the shots and the pressure to get them to move back, so he can use the sambo background to take them down and to get that submission game going. I feel like this could be a style where he could get a submission here, but then you got Diaz, who has that high level Brazilian jiu-jitsu background that could kind of negate that and keep him afloat in the matchup and make it go longer. But I do feel like Khamzat Chimaev is going to dominate this matchup. There will be points when Diaz might be able to land one or two good shots that can maybe rattle Chimaev, like you would say. But I think Chimaev dominates this matchup. It's just whether it's going to go to distance or if he's going to get the finish in this matchup. It could go either way because Diaz did get dominated by Leon Edwards, the new champion of the division. But then he did catch him in the fifth round, rattled him, but it went to decision. So it's like he has that puncher's chance of making it happen, and he can go to the decision if he wanted to. It's just a matter of, does Chimaev let that happen, or does he just decide to show up and not be less goofy, and then he goes for the finish? Because he had that big time matchup against Gilbert Burns. That was a close matchup, and they went to war with each other, but he got the victory. And now he's fighting Diaz, which I think is a big step backwards, and he might take it a little bit lightly. But you know what? I'm going to go Chimaev round 3 knockout here.
Okay. See, the thing about this fight, and this kind of goes to our what we like to do with the future building stuff. I think Chimaev wants to get in and out of this fight because Kamaru is going to fight Leon again. That rematch has to happen based on the way that fight panned out, right? So there's a couple ways that the division could kind of rack up. Obviously, the next in line for Chimaev would be Colby Covington. So if he goes untouched, Chimaev fights Colby Covington within a month or like 2 months or 3 months by the end of the year, right? Maybe Fight Island.
Yeah.
Now let's say Alex Pereira beats Izzy. Kamaru might move up to 185 or 205. No, 185. I'm sorry. Might move up to 185, and that vacates that rematch with Leon. So it all depends on what happens at this pay-per-view and what happens on the next few pay-per-views for who's going to go where. But I don't, even if Chimaev wins this, I don't see Chimaev getting the shot at Leon just yet. I think he has to go through Colby next, and I think the people want to see Chimaev versus Colby Covington.
The only problem with that is Colby might be out for 6 months because of an injury. So if he were to do that, he would have to wait. I think a sneaky play would be if Belal Muhammad was able to beat Sean Brady in a few weeks.
Yeah.
That could be a matchup that he goes with because Belal Muhammad's on a winning streak. He would win once again. I think that would make it to 4 fights. And it's a sneaky matchup because he's at that 5-6 range right now, and he can move up to 4 or 5 with the win like that against Brady, who's right behind him. And then even if he had to fight behind him, Chimaev would, that would create a very good main event matchup in the meantime while you're waiting for to see what's going to happen at the top of the division with possibly several of the guys out.
Yeah, or Chimaev goes up to 185.
Or that too. I could see that happening because he's a big enough guy to make the move, and it would make sense with a lot happening, especially if Izzy were to win. If Izzy were to win, Izzy
Chimaev goes up.
I think he would go up because Izzy is running out. He's run out of opponents to face,
I agree.
and then you got Chimaev who could get that almost instant title shot with his name and recognition.
Yeah, and I don't even think Chimaev even cares about the title shot. I think he just wants to destroy people.
Yeah,
Like that's his thing. Like he talks so openly in the cage to the
yeah,
commentators and to Dana and Sean Shelby, and he's like, "Look like send me somebody else. Like send another person in the octagon after this guy because
yeah.
I'm gonna crush them too." It's crazy.
Exactly. I get your point there. But other than that, that will wrap things up with tonight's UFC 279 4 card breakdown with yours truly, Cage and Jim. We will be back next week for another 4 card breakdown for UFC Fight Night. But other than that, just want to give a shout out to everybody that subscribes to the network. We're putting out more stuff each week, content wise. Now we're not just doing MMA, but we're doing wrestling. I just put out those 2 interviews with Aaron Jeffrey and Bubba Jenkins. We got the Words Collide slash Clash at the Castle prediction show that we did, and now we got this one. So if you're a person into MMA as well as wrestling, all you got to do is hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell, so that whenever we put any more content out, that you guys are the first to get it. And then please, before you're done watching this video, smash the like button down below and hit us up in the comments section and let us know what you think of our predictions and give us your thoughts and opinions on who are sleepers for this week and who are the plays to make on betting and in DFS this week. But other than that, I'm your host, Cage, and this is my co-host, Jim, and we will see you guys next time on Cage My IQ. Thanks for tuning in.